Hi everyone, today for our 6th grade Elevate groups, students will be comparing fractions with like denominators using models. So for your introduction, students will be introduced to two different fraction models, one that shows 3/4 and then the other that shows 1/4. Notice that they have the same denominators. So what students will be looking at from a procedural lens are the numerators to help them compare these fractions, okay? But with the model, students are looking at fraction strips and determining which strip is longer, okay? Or to help them determine which fraction is greater, right? So for this example, because the 3/4 strip is longer than the 1/4 strip, it means that 3/4 is greater than 1/4, or 1/4 is less than 3/4. This is important because later on in the lesson, students will get a question that asks them which fraction is the lesser fraction. So then you're going to spend about 3 minutes going through another fraction model. This one is a circular one. And you can ask students which model has more shaded parts, right? Because with the fraction strip, we deal with length. These models do not deal with length, so we want to ask which model has more shaded parts out of their total. And so kids will say, well, 1 shaded part out of 4, and then students will say there are 2 shaded parts out of 4 to help them determine their statement. So depending on which fraction they write first, they might have the greater than or less than sign there. Also stamping for students that because, again, the denominators are the same, we are only comparing the numerators. So 1 is less than 2 or 2 is greater than 1. Then launching students into a turn and talk. Caleb wants to compare 1/3 and 2/3. Which numbers does he need to compare? Explain. So students will say that he needs to compare the numerators, which are 1 and 2, because the denominators are the same. Then you'll launch them into 10 minutes of partner practice out of volume level 1. Note that they are working with fraction models, fraction strips, fraction circular models, and having to determine which is the lesser fraction or the greater fraction before jumping in and using those comparison symbols. They even are thrown the number line, which should be fine because we did some work with the number lines yesterday. And then they are going to spend about 5 minutes drawing models and comparing the fractions. This exit ticket is out of 4 points. 1 point if they had an accurate drawing, and then another point if they used the correct symbol to compare. And then for this particular lesson, you should have about 10 minutes left. So as a teacher in the room, you can decide whether you want them to work on these word problems. I would say it's always best practice to have students apply their procedural and conceptual understanding to an application format. So you can use those 10 minutes to have them work on these questions, or you can use this day as some time for some extra iReady practice.